In the 12th century, the Holy Land burned with faith and fury. Jerusalem, the city of three faiths, divided yet sacred. Here, merchants traded prayers for gold and swords for souls. Crusader states lined the coast, fragile islands of faith in a sea of war. For Christendom they fought and bled without question. Faith was their armor and destiny their weapon. But across the sands, a storm was rising. His name, Saladin, Saladin, the Lion of the Desert. A leader forged by devotion and sharpened by destiny. From Egypt to Syria, his banners united the crescent. The Crusaders, isolated, proud, and vastly outnumbered. Their walls held strong, but their hearts trembled. Whispers spread through their camps. Saladin was coming. Strategy faltered. Pride clouded their unity. They prepared for glory, unaware doom rode closer. Saladin's army moved like the wind, silent, unstoppable. 500 knights rode to meet 26,000. No retreat, no surrender, only faith and steel. The fate of empires gathered on a single plain. And so began the War of Faith and Fire. His rise was unstoppable. Saladin, the storm from the east. He seized Aleppo, Damascus, fortresses that choked the Crusaders. Merciful in victory, relentless in battle. Each conquest forged his legend. For the Crusaders, he was doom itself. Their numbers dwindled, their hope even more. The kingdom of Jerusalem stood isolated, surrounded by fire. A dying king, but still a lion at war. Leper king, defying death with every charge. But Saladin's patience was running thin, his health fading, his reign a race against time. After Baldwin's death, chaos took the throne. The court fractured, loyalties rotted from within. Reynald's greed lit the fuse of vengeance. Saladin swore this insult would not go unpunished. Faith was their only defense, but faith would not stop him. Then came the storm, and his fury with it. He summoned every sword in his empire. The Crusaders prepared, but their hearts trembled. 1187, the year the world would burn. In the spring of 1187, the earth trembled beneath Saladin's banners. He had gathered 30,000 men, a storm of steel and faith. Cavalry, archers, and infantry united under one crescent banner. Across the land, King Guy answered the challenge. 20,000 Crusaders, proud, desperate, and blind to doom. Their strategy fatally flawed from the very start. The desert heat became their deadliest enemy. Saladin's archers struck from shadows and sand. Every step forward, a rain of death. Thirst devoured them before the swords did. Saladin watched, each move exactly as he planned. They marched toward Tiberias, chasing salvation, but the circle was closing and the trap set. Their last drops vanished, their hope soon after. From every ridge, death rained upon them. Men and beasts collapsed together under the sun. King Guy rode through ruin, his kingdom melting in the heat, while Saladin watched, patient as death itself. Night brought no mercy, only thirst and fear. They realized too late they were already surrounded. By dawn, they reached the horns of Hattin, their final hill. Below, Saladin's army blazed like an ocean of fire. Exhausted, broken, they waited for the end. At sunrise, the drums of destiny began to thunder. The arrows waited for Saladin's signal. The holy warriors trapped between faith and fire. Saladin raised his blade, and history held its breath. Two worlds stood face to face, no retreat,
No mercy. The cross trembled in the desert heat. The stage was set for the most decisive battle of the Crusades.
The day was July 4th, 1187. The plains of Hattin burned beneath an unforgiving sun. The Crusader army, exhausted, thirsty, trapped in the desert heat. And around them, Saladin's forces closed the circle tighter and tighter. His archers waited, silent, deadly, disciplined. Then a storm of arrows fell like rain from the heavens. Shields shattered, faith wavered, death filled the air. Saladin's riders thundered forth, swift as shadows. The Crusaders, heavy and weary, faltered beneath the sun. King Guy struggled to hold the line, his commands lost in chaos. Beside him stood Reynald, his defiance burning till the end. The once feared heavy cavalry shattered beneath Saladin's precision. They carried the true cross, symbol of divine hope. But when it fell, so did their faith. Men dropped, not from wounds, but from despair. The field became a furnace, dust, smoke, and death. Saladin's circle closed, the trap complete. Arrows rained again, tearing through hope itself. Those who lived were taken, defeat carved into their eyes. Among them, the king himself, now a prisoner. Then came Saladin, calm, just, yet fierce in faith. Before him stood Reynald, the man who had broken every oath. For his treachery, justice was swift. One stroke, and the traitor's story ended. Yet the king was spared, mercy for the conquered. The plains of Hattin were silent now, only ashes and steel remained. From the smoke, Saladin's banners rose once more. Victory had come, and the road to Jerusalem lay open. The Crusader states trembled, their fates sealed by this day. One by one, their strongholds would fall. Hattin was not just a battle, it was destiny fulfilled. After Hattin's fury, the world trembled before Saladin's rising power. His army swept like wildfire across the Crusaded lands. Fortress after fortress fell to the might of the Ayyubid Sultan. City after city surrendered before his unstoppable advance. There was little resistance left, only broken garrisons and fading hope. United under one banner, his legions moved with divine purpose, their leaders' eyes fixed on one final prize, Jerusalem. The holy city lay exposed, stripped of its defenders. Inside, the people trembled, knowing their end was near. They turned to Balian of Ibelin, the knight who escaped Hattin's slaughter. He armed the people, farmers, merchants, even children, for one last stand. But Jerusalem could not withstand the Sultan's might for long. Balian fought with valor, but the walls were doomed to fall. At last, he sought mercy, not for glory, but for his people's lives. Saladin agreed, a surrender without slaughter, mercy over vengeance. On October 2nd, 1187, Jerusalem opened its gates to Saladin. 88 years of Crusader rule had ended that morning. No massacre followed, only quiet departures and tearful goodbyes. He spared them, mercy where once there had been vengeance. Thus ended the Crusaders' reign and began Saladin's legend of honor. News of Jerusalem's fall spread like wildfire through Europe. The Christian world was shaken, stunned. Messengers carried despair from court to court. Pope Urban III could not bear the weight of the news. The Vatican mourned, but soon a new voice rose. Pope Gregory VIII declared a holy call, Audita Tremendi. Europe listened, and the call echoed deep within their souls. Kings, nobles, and commoners alike took took up the cross, driven by faith and the fire of vengeance. 3 mighty kings answered the call. Frederick Barbarossa, Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. Philip of France, cunning, bold, unyielding. And Richard the Lionheart, the warrior king of England. Each brought armies vast and relentless. Europe armed itself for vengeance and redemption. The crusade gathered strength, an ocean of faith and fury. They sailed beneath the sign of the cross. But Saladin waited, ready to meet their fury with steel and faith. 2 worlds destined to collide once more. And so began the Third Crusade, a storm that would shake the world. The sea claimed its first king. Frederick Barbarossa drowned before reaching the Holy Land. His death shook the Crusader cause to its core. Philip of France quarreled with Richard and soon withdrew. Only Richard remained, the Lionheart, fierce and unbroken. He reached Acre, a city under siege and shrouded in smoke. For months he battled relentlessly, breaking walls, breaking will. The siege of Acre was long, brutal, unforgiving. At last, Acre fell, and the Lionheart had triumphed. But his eyes were already set upon Jaffa, a step toward Jerusalem. Richard marched south, disciplined, unstoppable. Saladin gathered his forces, the desert's fury awakening once more. His horse archers struck fast, like waves of flame across the sand. But Richard's men held firm, unbroken, precise, relentless. The heat burned, the arrows tore through armor and flesh. But discipline held, order amidst chaos. Saladin struck again and again, a storm without end. And in the heart of the storm rode the Lionheart himself. With a single command, the Crusaders unleashed their fury. The desert roared as steel met faith. At Arsuf, the Lionheart endured, and the legend of Richard was forged in fire. The sun burned over Arsuf, and the tide of war pressed closer. At the head rode Richard, iron-willed, unyielding, forged for battle. The arrows fell like rain, death whispering through the air. They held the line, their arms heavy, their spirits flickering like dying embers. From afar, Saladin watched, patient, waiting for the falcon's strike. The line trembled, faith against fatigue. Then 2 broke ranks, hearts blazing against orders. Steel met flesh, and the desert roared in fury. Seeing the spark ignite, Richard roared the order, "Charge!" 500 knights, the fury of heaven unleashed upon the earth. The earth split with the sound of judgment. The falcon's wings tore the storm apart. In one strike, the banner of fear was torn down. Even legends trembled before the charge of lions. The king stood alone, staring into the vanquished storm. Victory, bought with blood and silence. For every triumph, the earth remembers its fallen. Even the great must bow before fate. They had not won Jerusalem, but they had won the world's respect. The legend of 500 knights would echo through time.